A hidden document circulates quietly among diplomats, a briefing outlining how Western governments expect certain African leaders to align with their policies. It is not a conspiracy. It is the same pattern Africa has seen for decades. The document outlines conditions tied to loans, investment, military training, and even access to international markets. Behind every friendly handshake at a summit, there are pages of demands tucked into diplomatic folders. It describes how foreign powers prefer African governments that are predictable, meaning leaders who won't suddenly shift alliances toward China, Russia, Turkey, or the Gulf states. It mentions that mineral-rich regions must remain open and stable, an indirect way of saying that foreign companies should never face local competition or renegotiation of contracts. Several African countries have already experienced this: cobalt in the DRC, uranium in Niger, oil in Nigeria, gold in Mali, gas in Mozambique. The pattern repeats itself across the continent. Another section explains how diplomatic pressure is applied. When an African country tries to take a different path, such as diversifying trade partners or renegotiating mining royalties, sudden warnings appear: credit ratings downgraded, IMF loans delayed, sanctions threatened, travel restrictions hinted. These tactics have been publicly documented for years, from IMF structural adjustment programs to French influence in West Africa to US pressure regarding security cooperation. The document even outlines recommended responses if African citizens protest, issue statements about maintaining stability, encourage governments to fulfill international obligations, and stress the importance of protecting investments. The language is diplomatic, but the meaning is clear. The interests of foreign powers come first. There is a section explaining how Africa's strategic value is increasing again. Rare earth minerals, lithium for electric cars, uranium for nuclear plants, and new shipping routes. With global competition intensifying, Western states are determined not to lose their historical influence. The briefing warns that African leaders who turn away from Western partners risk political consequences, though what those consequences are is left deliberately vague. What truly sparks outrage is the final paragraph. It advises Western envoys to remind certain African governments that international partnerships are essential for their stability. In diplomatic language, it sounds harmless, but in reality, it reflects an old idea. Africa is not allowed to choose freely. Many viewers who read the leaked excerpt compare it to past decades when African economies were shaped by external decisions rather than their own citizens' needs. Nothing in the document is surprising. Every African who has followed geopolitics already knows the truth. But seeing it written plainly hits different. It confirms what people have shouted for years. Foreign powers still expect Africa to obey, still believe they have the right to dictate policies, still decide who gets support and who gets isolated. The outrage spreads because it feels like a new form of the same old control. Not with soldiers this time, but with contracts, loans, diplomacy, and pressure disguised as partnership. It is a reminder that in international politics, the most powerful countries write the rules, and African nations often face consequences when they try to rewrite them. The leak doesn't name presidents, it doesn't expose individuals, it exposes a system, one that has existed for generations, and forces everyone to confront the uncomfortable reality that Africa's political independence has never been fully matched by economic and geopolitical freedom. And that is why the document goes viral. It confirms what millions already suspect. The world still treats Africa as a battlefield of influence, and the struggle for true autonomy is far from over.